This week on Front End Fire, React Conf happened this week, and so we have a bunch of React news to cover, including a new React Foundation and a new React version. And then Cloudflare announced something called Cap and Web, so of course we need to talk about that as well. It's Front End Fire. Let's do it. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Front End Fire, episode 117 of Front End Fire.
Whoa.
They're adding up fast.
They are.
I am your host today, TJ Van Tol. I have Jack Harrington today wearing his Dino sweatshirt.
Absolutely, repping the Dino.
Love it.
And I've got Paige Niedringhaus.
Hey everybody, I am wearing my Log Rocket t-shirt.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. I've got my C# t-shirt on, which I've written.
Okay.
I don't know if I've told this story on the podcast before, but I've written like no C# code ever.
Yeah.
But
Got the shirt.
Xamarin, who sent me out this t-shirt,
Xamarin,
Microsoft was
yeah.
basically running a little thing that if you went through their tutorial, they'd send you a t-shirt. And I went through the tutorial, they sent me the t-shirt, and I love this t-shirt. It fits so good. So I've been repping C# in public for years at this point.
Yeah, I do love Dino, I really do. But dang, this sweatshirt is just so comfy. You know, you find good swag, or you go and like wash it to the point where it's just so soft. And it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing better than that. Nothing better.
That's one thing that I miss about conferences today, which I don't go to a lot of anymore, is that used to be like the thing, was how many free t-shirts could you get from all the vendors repping their, UI frameworks and hosting cloud services and all that good stuff.
Fill up your wardrobe.
Yeah, right. I guess.
And they were good too. Like they were, limited edition t-shirts. You couldn't find those things anywhere else.
Oh yeah,
This is my for any aspiring DevRel people out here, this is one of my DevRel pro tips, is you don't skimp on t-shirt quality. Because if you put out a high quality shirt, people will wear the crap out of them, and you want developers wearing your shirts. So
I got a Radix shirt this time around at ReactConf, and Chan was like, "Hey man, you want a Radix shirt? By the way, it runs really large." And I'm like, "Okay," and I give him my standard sizing. And the thing is like 2 sizes larger than me.
Wow.
So it's like a night shirt. It's hilarious.
Yeah, that's
get your
the
sizing
problem.
right too.
Right.
I guess, yeah. I don't know how you could be like 2 sizes off. I mean, it's like a parachute. This thing.
We've done socks before too. Socks have went over well. I mean, it's
Socks was
it's
big
good
like
stuff.
10 years ago. It was like that was a big deal.
Yeah. And then always good stickers. Holographic, nice. That's the
Yeah,
key.
good laptop stickers are key. Absolutely.
Yes.
And speaking of conferences, there was a big one this week. So why don't we get into it?
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
All right, Jack, you want to kick us off? I hear we have a new foundation.
Yeah. React Foundation announced at ReactConf. So the idea is that React is going to be open sourced, both React and React Native. So React Native is currently really the source of truth for React Native is actually an internal repo at Meta. And so the OSS version is always kind of behind and it gets the updates and all that. So the official source of truth is going to move to that OSS repo next couple of months. And then that is going to move under the foundation, which is really cool. And there's a bunch of big players that are supporting this, millions of dollars a year going into this. And the idea is that they're going to do all of the governance of React, which is fantastic, because I think this to me clears up a lot of the existential dread that we've always had in some way or another about Meta. I remember the first time that I talked to a company about using React, and it was like early days React, and they were like, "Well, what, Meta's going to own us, blah 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 blah, licensing, yada yada yada." I'm like, okay, I think it's a little bit of FUD, but like, it's always been there as a thing. What Meta going to do with this? Are they going to drive it in a direction that we like? And is it going to be around? Like, those are the big 3 questions: financial future, direction, and licensing. And this basically takes all 3 and just takes them straight off the board, because we're going to have multiple groups coordinating through this foundation. Everything's going to be public. It's going to be great. I think
So,
that's my take.
how is this going to affect who is actually working on React? Because the React core team has always been Meta employees up to this point. So, do they continue to be Meta employees, or do they go under somebody else? Like, how does that work?
No, I think they can continue to be Meta employees and get the
Hmm.
paycheck through there. But they're, I guess, part of their primary work is going to be working on an open source core that is outside of Meta. And that's not unusual. I mean, a lot of companies do that. I have friends that work over at Google who contribute to MySQL, and that's not, anything that Google owns. And
Right.
yeah, so not unusual.
Yeah, and it was all put under basically under the Linux Foundation, and
Yeah.
this is sort of an established pattern for a lot of these technologies. I saw this play out firsthand with the jQuery project. The jQuery project was sort of haphazardly organized, and then as it became a more critical piece of infrastructure, it got sucked into the foundation model. This is the route that a lot of different projects take, and the good thing is it's an established model. It seems to be working just fine. Linux is rolling around. jQuery is still maintained through this process. So I think it's overall a good thing. And just to touch on what Jack said about kind of the complaints people would have around this, my previous job, I worked for a project called NativeScript, which you might have heard of, and we competed against React Native. We came out around the same time as React Native. And one of the things our marketing team always used all the time is like, well, can you trust Facebook to run React Native?
Right.
Because
Exactly.
they're in sole control. And the thing is, the reason we used it is because it totally worked. People would absolutely not want to trust Facebook, now Meta, with control over React or React Native. And now this gives, I don't know, it's just more of an open system for the governance of the project. And so overall, I think it's a very good thing.
Awesome. Yeah.
Cool. And not only is there a new foundation at React Conf, there were some announcements as well. So I'm going to go next. I'll break precedence here just to keep us on the
Dun, dun, dun.
It makes
on
sense.
the React train. React Compiler 1.0 was announced at React Conf. So we've talked about React Compiler before on this show. It's a build tool that's designed to optimize your React apps by minimizing re-renders. Basically, it tries to find parts in your components that it can automatically memoize so that you don't need to manually add use memo or use callback. But now with the 1.0 release, in theory, there's a vote of confidence in this tool. They say that it's now recommended for all new applications and that existing apps can start to adopt it. And they even have documentation on how you can adopt it incrementally. So if you're hesitant to just flip the switch and turn it on for your entire app, if you were a big app, there are ways that you can split it up because the React compiler works component by component. So you can just say, turn it on for these set of components so that we can monitor for a while. Maybe you could do some performance testing to see if you're getting some actual gains by turning it on. But it is 1.0. It is out. So you might want to check that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Absolutely.
something that's nice about the React compiler, because it's gone through a couple of different iterations, it seems like it's been under development for years at this point, is
It
that
has been.
yeah. But it takes away you as a developer ever having to use those hooks again. And it provides better fine-grained re-rendering and memoization of stuff. So, use callback and use memo are great, but it can go even deeper into exactly what is being re-rendered or what is not being rendered and what's being cached. So it really should be better as a developer experience and also improve your app's performance. So it really is like a win in every way, as long as you can hopefully use it soon and be confident in it.
And the performance gains don't stop there because Joseph Owen was talking about internally they're working on this thing called React Fur that's going to be have even more performance gains over that. So they're working that core.
So the other announcement from React is that there is a new version, React 19.2. Technically, this was released a few days before React Conf, but they talked about it at the conference, and we haven't talked about it on the show quite yet. And there are quite a few updates in here. I thought I'd highlight the handful of most prominent ones for people listening. And of course, the blog post is in the show notes if you want to check that out. The headlining feature from this release is a new activity component. So they say that activity lets you break your app into, quote, activities that can be controlled and prioritized. You can use activity as an alternative to conditionally rendering parts of your app. Essentially, it's a component that takes an attribute called mode, and you can set mode to either visible or hidden. When activity is visible, it just acts like any other React component. When it's in hidden mode is where things get interesting, though. When the component is hidden, React is going to hide the children, it's going to unmount the effects, and defer all updates until React has nothing left. But importantly, it will leave it in the virtual DOM. So the idea here is it's a way of designating content as content that shouldn't be shown to the user. It's mode hidden, but that should still be left sort of available in the virtual DOM so that if you do switch to showing it, maybe it's another tab or another page or whatever, React doesn't have to totally start from scratch when it goes to render it, which can potentially be a pretty big performance gain depending on what it is that you're building. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So are any of these new React features, are they available for like Next.js users, or is it still like these just came out and if you're using vanilla React, you can take advantage of them immediately, but if you're using a meta framework, it'll take a minute to get into that?
They should be available immediately. I know React Compiler specifically, which is a separate release, but I know through Next there's a separate experimental flag you have to use for React Compiler, but the features we're talking about here, just as part of the new version, those should be available and you should be able to use them. Obviously, there might be exceptions in certain cases where there's conflicts, but in general, it should be just a straight upgrade and you're able to use them.
Yeah, Next.js is the odd person out or odd framework out, and that they control your React version, but like Tanstack, if you're on that, you control the React version, so you can have it today if you want.
Upgrade. Yeah.
Woo! Go.
I feel like they control it, but they're also quite good about staying up to date. I mean, they typically work really close with the React team. So I'd be surprised if by the time you're listening to this, you couldn't use this stuff in Next.js. But always check and try out before you ship things to production. Hey everybody, TJ from the future here. Basically, as soon as we finish recording this episode, the Next.js team at Vercel put out version 16, a beta release. And that release has support for both React 19.2 as well as the stable release of React Compiler. So as we kind of alluded to, the Next.js team is usually pretty good about putting out these updates shortly after, and it is now available. So if you want to try them out, they are in the Next.js 16 beta. The next new feature is a new hook. Every React needs more hooks, but this one's called Use Effect Event, which is a very verbose
mouthful.
It is a mouthful. It is a way of breaking what they call events out of use effect. So they say in here that one common pattern with use effect is to notify app code of some kind of, quote, event from an external system. For example, when a chat room gets connected, you might want to display a notification. And basically, in those situations, and every React developer has run into this, where you have a use effect, and then you're using some function because you need to do something else, and then React is going to tell you, oh, this has to be in your dependency array. And you look at React and go, but this doesn't make sense in my dependency array. It doesn't want to re-render. This is providing a model where you can basically break that out. It's a new hook where you do the actual event portion of your use effect that your use effect can then use. That is a bit of a mouthful, so I would recommend taking a look at the docs. This is one of those things where examples are a lot clearer than trying to explain through audio only, but it is a nice little hook because I've ran into this. This is one reason why use effect is kind of the worst part of React is things like this. So
things like
hopefully this can clean that up a little bit.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing where you used to use like a ref. You'd use a ref to hold a pointer to a function, and then that way like you didn't have to re-render the effect. Because in general, like if you're doing one of those subscription effects, or those effects that have a subscription, you don't want to unsubscribe and resubscribe. Just to update that callback, right?
I've done the ref trick before, but it always feels so stupid and like a
exactly.
hack.
So this is the unstupid feeling ref trick. Basically, you could rewrite this component in 20 minutes. Yeah.
So next is DevTools. So React 19.2 adds a set of custom tracks to Chrome DevTools Performance tab so that you can get more information about the performance of your React app. I did learn through reading this that this is actually an API that the Chrome team exposes for frameworks to plug into, because Angular is doing something similar. We talked about it previously when we talked about Angular updates. So basically, they give hooks so you can do this sort of thing. And the cool thing about this is they have what they call a scheduler track and a component track, where you can see just the rendering pipeline from React and your component tree. But it's cool because it's right in the performance tab of the DevTools. You don't need a separate extension, like a separate React DevTools to do it. It's right in with your performance information. And so that's new with this. If you upgrade your version, you can see some more performance information in the Chrome DevTools, which is pretty cool also.
Is the React DevTools still around, or has that kind of been deprecated now?
As far as I know, it's still around and working. But I think the idea here is that just to bring it straight into the performance so that you can also see your React information alongside other performance information can be kind of useful versus having to go to a separate thing. And I've seen from screenshots, it looks pretty cool. I need to try this out too to see how it works.
Yeah, if you really want to understand like how React works underneath the hood, something to kind of get into.
Yeah. Cool.
And then last on my list, and this is an update to React DOM, but is partial pre-rendering. So partial pre-rendering is a function that a lot of frameworks have offered, Next.js as well as a bunch of others. In 19.2, React is baking this into React DOM itself. So they're adding a new capability to pre-render part of the app ahead of the time and to resume rendering it later. There's a new pre-render function. So it'll be interesting to see if frameworks switch over to this built-in one, or if people just start to use this directly. But it's a feature that used to be relegated to frameworks that's now a built-in thing, which is also kind of cool.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And that's React 19.2. So new features, not a crazy new release, but a lot of fun little things. So I'd say definitely upgrade and try it out.
Yeah. For sure.
All right. And our last news item for this week, Paige, tell us about Cap'n Web.
Cap'n Web.
Cap'n Web, our matey.
I know. Cap'n Crunch and pirate jokes abound here. But yeah, so Cap'n Web is a new offering from Cloudflare, and it is a new RPC, which is remote procedural calls for people who are not as familiar. But it's a new RPC protocol that's written in pure TypeScript, because we all love TypeScript and want to do everything in TypeScript as web developers. But it's just, so for people who are less familiar with RPC as opposed to HTTP calls or REST or things like that, it is just calling functions, or what look like just kind of JavaScript functions, without worrying about what's happening under the hood. You don't care if it's HTTP or WebSockets or GraphQL that's fetching data, whatever. It doesn't really matter to you. RPC and this is just a nice wrapper on top of it that looks like you're just calling a typical JavaScript function. So some of the really cool things that Cloudflare is offering with Cap'n Web is that it supports bidirectional calling. So your client can call your server, and your server can call your client, which has always been kind of a difficult thing to manage. So that's pretty sweet. It supports promise pipelining. So if you have to chain calls to do multiple things to fetch data, which is kind of what GraphQL offered, is like, fetch all your data at once. We don't care where it's coming from. This does the same thing with a single network round trip. So if you're fetching a bunch of different data sources to load your page initially, Cap'n Web lets you do that easily, which is pretty sweet. And it really just lets you define RPC interfaces like you would define JavaScript APIs. So you can declare your RPC API once with a TypeScript interface and then implement it on the server. And when it calls it on the client, it does end-to-end type checking. So you've got the autocomplete method names, you've got the type checking, you've got all the stuff that comes with TypeScript just out of the box, which is really nice. But they do say if you need to do TypeScript runtime checking, still use something like Zod or Valibot or one of those other ones. But if you just like having type autocomplete and all the TypeScript stuff that comes when you're doing development, this is really nice. So it's a pretty cool new implementation for RPC, and it's it's pretty sweet that Cloudflare has come out with this, because they also came out with a previous one, which I don't think was for JavaScript. I think it was just RPC for a different set of APIs and types of implementation. But this one is specifically for JavaScript and for web, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's also not Cloudflare specific, so that's cool. You don't have to run on Cloudflare in order to use this, so that's kind of critical.
I'm surprised by that in a good way. I thought this would be like a lock in to their infrastructure.
Their ecosystem? Nope.
Yeah, because I locked in that bidirectional calling sounds really, really slick.
It's WebSockets,
Yeah, well, sure, but like a built-in way of doing it, because WebSockets bare is not the most fun thing to deal with.
It's not fun to set up.
Well, speaking of that, I actually did try that. I set it up on TanStack, and it works just great. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I've done WebSockets before for some simple things, and I did not love the experience. So I'd be happy to pay for some infrastructure to make that a little bit easier. I'm not loving the name. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. But
I don't know what they're going for. I think they were trying to be clever. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just feel silly saying Captain Web.
Captain Web.
It's like when you're in the meeting with a CTO or whatever of some multi-billion-dollar Fortune 500. What are you gonna use for RPC there? Expecting some ORPC, TRPC, or Captain Web. Like we're gonna use Captain Web, Captain.
Yeah, because sometimes Cloudflare is a lot of things. It's not always the cheapest option. So if you're going to your CTO and you're like, we need budget approval to do this at scale, you're gonna have to roll your eyes a little bit and say like, oh, it's called Cap'n Web, but it's really good infrastructure and.
I mean, it has nothing to do with cap and trade, by the way, which is an entirely different thing.
From what I could see from reading the little press release or the documentation about it, it's short for capability, which is like their other version of this, because I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's Captain something, but it's the same idea. So this is just the web version of it. So I guess it's
Cap'n Proto.
Okay.
That's not good.
You.
That is
if you go to capnproto.org, you can see a website that is quite good. That it has a graphic that says it's literally infinity % faster than whatever they're comparing it to. So,
okay, yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they're onto something. They got us talking about it. Maybe they're just going for word of mouth. But I don't know.
Yeah, when I was over at ReactConf, I talked with Sunil Pai a lot about this, and he's loving it. He's a guy who's over at Cloudflare. He did before that. He did Party Kit, Party Town. I think Party Town, Party Kit, whatever that one. Basically, a multiplayer type system, and that's what you need for that. Mm-hmm. And so he probably built part of that infrastructure as part of that, and now it's like, oh well, now it's a standard, which is great. And again, not Cloudflare specific, but the Cloudflare folks are definitely digging on it.
Yeah, I remember when seeing the news when they had hired him, and I don't remember if it was Party Kit or Party Town, but that was the whole idea, was that it was super easy to make multiplayer interactive games or documents, kind of like how you can edit a Google Doc with multiple people, but he wanted to just make that just a drop-in, NPM library or functionality for an app. So yeah, it's not terribly surprising that this came out of Cloudflare, since they hired the guy who kind of made it a much easier lift.
Yeah.
So fun news this week. I know we have some fun bonus lightning news as well. Woo! So why don't we do that?
Yeah.
So Paige, I hear there's another AI browser that is out there for us to use.
Yes. This is from Opera, who has done, but we never talk about Opera. It's just like this weird little browser that hangs out on the side, and several people use it, but that's it. But yeah, they have an AI offering now, and it's called Opera Neon, and they actually want you to pay for it, which is wild.
What? Pay for a browser? No.
A
Who pays for
monthly
software?
I don't
$20
understand this
subscription.
concept.
Can you imagine?
I can't even know.
I mean, like, what's weird about this is that looking through their website, because I just scrolled through it, it seems to be just doing the standard AI browser stuff. It talks about agentically using the web for the most part, and I mean, I have fond feelings for Opera. I remember really liking Opera's browser back in the day. It's a fun little team that puts this stuff together. I just don't have the confidence that Opera is going to build a superior browser when compared to, we know Chrome is working on adding AI features. Edge is working on different AI features. We've got the browser company, which is now part of Atlassian, that's working on doing this. There's Perplexity that's doing this with Comet.
Oh, Brave has Leo. I was hanging out with Jamin, and he was showing me Brave, and he's like, "Oh wow, I think I have AI in my browser too, Leo." Like, okay.
So everybody's doing
got
this.
it. Yeah.
Is Opera going to be the winner out of this? I mean, maybe this clip will come back to haunt me when Opera takes over.
Remember when you thought that Opera wasn't going to win the AI wars?
Yeah, like when everybody's using Neon and it's a household name. I might regret this, but I don't see them winning the race. I do wish them good luck. Again, I like the team, but I don't know what would make this stand out from the crowd.
No, I just can't understand how they think anybody is going to pay $20 a month for something that they can get for free from all these other agentic competing browsers. I don't see it.
It's kind of the downside of everybody just racing to the expectation that everybody has that this stuff will be free does kind of hurt it directly hurts these smaller players that want to build stuff, because how in the world do you compete against that? So I certainly get their motivation about wanting to charge. I wish it was more sustainable to do that sort of thing, but unfortunately I just think the reality is it just isn't.
Yeah.
Good luck to them. We'll keep you updated on if Opera continues to succeed, if people want to pay for this.
Yep.
Well, they got to find a way to get profitable eventually. You know?
Yeah. So I have a very exciting headline for you both, and I don't think you've necessarily seen this before. So I'll.
Oh yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Headline from Politico: Europe's cookie law messed up the internet. Brussels wants to fix it. So the news here is that the European Commission, who is in 2009 is the origin behind all the cookie banners we've been dismissing for years and years and years now. They're reportedly, so this is not anything set in stone, but they're considering tweaks to the cookie banner provisions of the e-privacy directive, and the proposed changes could include adding more exceptions to the consent requirement or allowing users to set centralized cookie preferences directly in their browsers.
Yay!
Yes.
Oh, my
So if this happened, it would be pretty amazing. Apparently, the commission is preparing a proposal, and then once there is a proposal, it needs to be presented to the European Parliament in Brussels. So this is not happening imminently. There's a lot of bureaucracy with this EU process. However, if it's set in motion, maybe there's some momentum, and we can rid the web of some cookie banners that are pretty universally hated.
I can't think of anybody that likes those besides vendors that actually implement those. Really, to be honest, they're terrible. They're just terrible.
If I could just deny all of them all the time, I absolutely would.
Well, and the thing is, I as far as I know, have there ever been any cases of anybody? Is this even being enforced? Is there anything to stop people from actually making their cookie banner work correctly? I mean, how many of those things out there do you think actually do what they're intended to do and actually block cookies? Because
I think the big companies do it and do it exactly correctly because they don't want to be open to lawsuits. But I doubt that rando company three person startup shop cares really.
Yep.
Yeah, it could have a bug and people are like, whatever, I don't care. Yeah.
Or you could just not do it. Like, what are you gonna do? Come after us? I mean, like, come after a small player? Like, you don't have anything better to do, EU?
Yeah. It was funny, actually, and I'll try and find a link to this because it's actually really cool. Again, I was talking with Jamin in the airport on the way out of Vegas, and he had done this thing. It was really cute. It was like a bun. He called it bun drop, and the idea is that if you have a file that you want to give to somebody, and what do? You upload a Dropbox, blah, blah, blah.
Or
yeah,
whatever,
exactly.
yeah.
So you get this thing called like bun drop, and it basically creates this tunnel between you and the other person, and you give them a URL, and then they literally get it right off of your machine. So it's really cool, and it's all OSS and stuff. But it does give you a web page. And, of course, that doesn't have a cookie banner on it. Like, who cares, right? I mean, nobody's gonna do that. Like, I've never seen a dev like just randomly make a startup and like just throw a cookie banner on there unless they're actually serious about something. But like, no, man,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's crazy. It's all just crazy. I can only imagine like when they first proposed this, there was some random dev in the back. No, please don't do this. And like
Right.
they're like, no,
It's the classic. You could see the motivation on paper. This sounds so good. Like, there's all
Right.
this,
Absolutely.
all this tracking going on. Well, what if we made people consent to it? It sounds so good on paper, but it's just one of the classic pieces of legislation where did not think through the repercussions of the guidelines all that well, and it's also hurt. Not to go on too big of a tangent here, but this is one thing that hurts the web significantly when compared to apps, because apps don't do this, right? Apps
and they track all the time because they track everything.
Yeah, exactly, because they're tracking in a different way. They don't use cookies, so it just harms the web directly. It harms PWAs because everybody has to deal with this stuff, and people don't test the mobile version of their cookie thing, so then you get frustrated trying to click the stupid checkboxes and buttons,
right? Because it's off the screen.
Yeah, you can't dismiss it.
So bad.
Yeah,
So bad.
terrible.
Yeah.
I got one last headline. This one's very quick, but it's also fun. So this October, the Internet Archive, archive.org, is going to celebrate a milestone. They've now reached 1 trillion web pages preserved and available via the Wayback Machine. So
wow.
Thank goodness. As
shout
we
out
see
to the Wayback Machine.
things happening in the world, I'm glad that we've retained knowledge in a salt mine out in Antarctica or wherever it is. Yes, please.
It's
Feels like
such
foundation.
It's such a cool service. It's like a thankless job.
Yeah, but it's good. It's really good, though.
It's so good. The scale of it is mind-blowing. Like 1 trillion pages. Good God. Ugh. But very cool.
All your little failed, .com acquisition, projects that you made. Oh, what if I did this? And you deployed it for 3 days and, had your mom look at it. They're there. They're there. Deployed. It remembers.
Forever.
A salt mine in a salt mine forever. They're there.
I've even used it before, just my own company, for looking back at things like, what did we have on this landing page? And I can't easily go back in time on Git because there's dependencies and whatnot. But you can look at let's just bring up the Wayback Machine and see what it did look like three years ago. And it takes a little while to load, but the fact that you can bring it up is just extraordinary. It's mind blowing.
Yeah.
Power to them.
All right. Exactly. All right, that's making us happy. What else is making us happy this week? Let's do it. Paige, what is making you happy this week?
All right. So I think it's a new show on Amazon came out called The Terminal List. And then this one is Dark Wolf, which is a spin-off or a prequel actually to the original Terminal List, which came out a couple of years ago. But if you like Navy SEALs and government intrigue and espionage and covert ops, then you'll definitely like this because it's got all of those things. It's set over in Europe and the Middle East. There's nuclear weapons that are at stake or nuclear power that's at stake. And it's a fun thriller. So if you like that kind of thing and you're looking for a new one, the original Terminal List, which starred Chris Pratt, was good. And then this is a prequel to it. And I think they're going to just expand the universe out because it's based on a book series. So it sounds like there's lots of plots and lots of different characters and things that they can do to keep it going. So yeah, check it out. It's on Amazon Prime. It's a fun quick watch. I think there's 6 or 8 episodes, so it's one that you'll probably get through in a weekend. But it's been enjoyable to watch. It's fast paced. It's thrilling. It's exciting.
That's
all
awesome.
that stuff.
Yeah, I'm just going to check that out. That's cool. Jack, what about you? What's making you happy this week?
I got me a new guitar. Yeah.
New guitar.
Woo! Yeah, this is called a Fender Acoustasonic. It's really interesting. It's a combination.
It's an awesome name.
Right? It's a combination acoustic and electric guitar. So you can actually, it's got acoustic pickups and as well as a electric pickup, and you can kind of merge or go with one or the other or whatever. But the really cool
I didn't
thing
even know that was a thing.
Right?
Yeah.
It's got a sound hole in it, so it's just a great like backyard guitar, and it's very thin. It's like basically the size of an electric, and the weight, well, actually a lot lighter than an electric. So it's like the perfect kind of like sit on the couch and just play a tune kind of guitar. So it's funny. Like I was in Vegas and I was actually like, oh man, I can't wait to get back and just like play my guitar,
jam out a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that going to be the Norway guitar? What's the situation there?
I don't know. I don't know what it's like to travel with a guitar. Like it's clearly less than traveling with golf clubs. I mean, that's a little bit better than that. But
I've not done it before, so I don't know.
It's got to be carry on.
I guess, and I'd probably use like a hard case because I don't want to have it smash itself. So, but no, I've been learning some some reggae because a friend of mine is super into reggae. So the next time I go down to the Bay Area, I'll just be able to like do some Bob Marley and that kind of. It's been great. I'm just so enjoying it. It's a nice way to just kind of de-stress and not think about tech, for a little while. Think about 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, that kind of thing. Yeah, so really enjoying.
Very cool.
Cool.
I've got a pick that's making me happy from Amazon. So I've talked on the show before. I'm going to a lot of band performances and soccer games, and these are all stadium seating situations. So on a lot of just bleachers. And we've noticed from other parents that the bleacher seat technology game has gotten strong. Okay. I've previously, if you're a very long time listener to the show, we've made like lawn chair picks of the just higher end lawn chairs for sitting on the sidelines of soccer games. And I've now purchased from Amazon just a little like $30 little seat that bolts onto a stadium seat. But it does it in a way where it has a locking mechanism on the bottom for the seat, so it raises you up a little bit on the bleachers. It has a lock-in mechanism for a back, so it adds a back, but in a way that's quite stable. And I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'2", over 200 pounds. I was a little bit worried that I was going to sit on this thing and completely destroy it, but it holds up pretty well to the point where we got one and now we're going to buy another one. It's just some random brand. It probably comes from China or whatever, but it's the perfect sort of little Amazon purchase where it's just quick and easy. It does its job. So it's kind of a niche pick. If you're the type of person that goes to stadiums a lot, you have a kid in some sort of a sport, it's definitely worth it just to enhance your bleacher sitting experience.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man. Those things
on
are
bleachers,
rough.
no fun. Yeah, no kidding. Ugh. Brutal.
Yeah, and it helps keep me warm. It's starting to get cold here, and we've got, since my son's in band still plays at the football games as it starts to get cold. So I will be out there, but I'll be out there in my fancy new seat. So there we go.
Yeah. I see other parents taking a note from you, getting a recommendation.
Yeah, I'm staying on top of the picks for middle school to high school age kids. I'm looking out for the parents out there.
These things take so long. I mean, it's hours and hours of prep, and you're out there for a while.
Oh man, and the band stays to the bitter end because
of course they do. The awards and stuff, and like judging.
Our football team is pretty good this year, which is cool. It's fun. You want to see your team win. But we were beating some team by 35-0 at halftime. And at that point, a lot of people are starting to leave the game, right? Because you don't need to see much more of this. But of course, the band has to stay till the end of the game, and they're playing something. And so there we sit watching the riveting, whatever it was, 45 to 3 game to check it out. But
that's the thing with high school football is it's always like 45-7. That sort of thing. You almost never get a game where it's actually balanced between the two teams.
Yeah, there's way more blowouts than there are close games, unfortunately.
It's like, oh my God, that guy went in for a touchdown again. That's like his 8th touchdown today. Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, but I think that makes another episode, number 117, in the books. Thanks everybody for listening. In the show notes, you'll find links to all of our socials. We're on all the big platforms. You'll find a link to our Discord channel where we hang out and talk about the stuff that comes up on this episode, or sometimes just random stuff in the tech world as well. So check that out if you want to hang out with us. And I think that is it for this week. Thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
See you then.